Good evening. How are you guys doing? Hello, hello, hello. It's good to be back. Excuse my absence last week. I went on vacation, which, to be fair to me, a vacation with 2 under 2 is not necessarily a vacation. So, hey Don, again alone. I mean, Friday is the show with Cred, so I'm guessing he's gonna be there. Where were you on vacation? On vacation. But yeah, like I said, not really a vacation. But was all right. How's Little Duck? Little Duck is doing all right, doing good. Keeping us up at night a little bit. Our first one was sleeping through the night from the get-go for the first 6 months, and then started being hard on us. This one's not so happy from the start. Just hope that he gets happy at 6 months then at least, and then we have a good life. Welcome back, Duck. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I know it's not so nice when someone's yawning into the microphone. Sorry about that. Anyway, before we start the show, big shout out to Woo for sponsoring it. Really appreciate their support. Their links are in the description below. So if you want to check them out, go check them out. And yeah, let's run through things before I run out of energy, and then we'll see where we end up. I haven't really missed much. I've been gone last week, which took us from like almost all-time high back again towards like where we are right now, which is 105k. But in the grand scheme of things, nothing's changed, right? This is the monthly. That closed really nice. We could turn that into a green box, which is always nice. You could argue about turning this into a green box, closed above that too. In any case, there's support in between where we are right now, or like 102k towards like 94 on the monthly. You can also make, if you really, really want to, you can make an argument for a range that we just broke out of, and this being the range. I just like my box the best. The small box seems the best, and as long as that is holding up, the monthly is ragingly bullish, right? And it is taking a little bit. That is in parts due to just macro, and in other parts just we have Bitcoin prices just really high. It takes a lot of money to pump it now, whereas back in the day it would take very little. But the monthly looks bullish, like that's a bullish chart. I like that. The weekly is also bullish. That one is a little bit more dicey. The reason for that is that we have an immediate retest. I don't like immediate retests of breakouts. Good strong breakouts do this and then just never look back. You will see a lot of those during the rally. As you can see here, like basically all the good breakouts did not retest. So breakout, never look back. Breakout here, never look back. This one a little bit different. That one is retesting, right? Which is a sign of a lack of momentum, lack of urgency. But that doesn't have to mean that it's bearish. It's just less bullish than a breakout that does not look back. But yeah, basically there's an easy invalidation on like for bulls. I think anything below 102 to 104k would start looking a little bit bad, and then I would expect even in the bullish case that we retest 96 or even the range low at 90. And then if it's the bearish case, it's just fucked. But until that happens, this time frame is also bullish. It is less bullish than the monthly though. I will say that. This is a clean breakout. This is fine. This is a strong chart on the monthly. The weekly, a little bit less so, but still good. There's not so much to complain about, I would say. On the daily time frame, same kind of story, really. The last time I streamed, we were retesting the support zone that I had lined out, and it was like, I think that was the last time anyway. I was like, this is what I would like for would like Bitcoin to hold in here. It did, it retested, it rallied towards like 112K, and now is pulling back. Not really much to say here. I like this is decent. That's the resistance. This is a false breakout for now. This is the chart that is the worst out of all of them. Just because there was a false breakout. Support has been holding so far, but if this support goes, the support between 98 and 101, I think you could see like a nice quick move towards 90K again. If this fails. If it doesn't fail, that'd be quite nice. It's not the end of the world, but I would say this is more choppy / bearish than the other two. Weekly is good, monthly is good, daily is a little bit choppy, if not leaning slightly bearish. So if you combine all of that, I think it still paints quite a bullish picture, and you do have like nice confluence in the 100K region that needs to hold. So if it breaks, I think a quick trade down makes sense. As long as it holds, it makes sense to be leaning bullish, just because the higher time frames are leaning bullish. And yeah, in between, you can kind of trade however you want. On the lower time frames, it's a little bit of a toss up. Breakout above 106K. We tried yesterday, didn't quite manage. Above 106K again would invalidate this false breakout and would make the daily chart also quite bullish, right? So there's a nice, like if you're bear, you have a nice invalidation, which is up here. Like you don't want to see a trade above 110. You target like 100, see if there's strength there. If not, take it to 90. And if you're bull, you have a decent invalidation too at 100K. So you're going to see a bunch of basically bulls versus bears picking a battle here, just because it's kind of clean. But yeah, the closer for bulls it gets to 100K, I think the more interesting it is. And for bears, this is basically the moment. This 106K retest was, at least yesterday, in my opinion, the peak moment. Best risk reward if you are bearish. I'm personally not bearish, so I probably wouldn't have taken it. But just from a setup perspective, it's the best bearish setup that you're gonna find in this range. Tired duck after holidays, yeah. 2 quits are no joke. Yeah, it's a little bit of work. Is Fartcoin cooked? We can go over it in a second. Maybe you just range for 10 years like gold. Maybe a range at 100K. I find that quite insane. But it would be bullish generally. What does Duck's gut say? Tops in or still higher? I kind of think it was still going higher. I think we had all the chances in the world to break down. I think the Ponzi is not ready to collapse yet. Like when we're trading lower, was quite a good setup to trade much lower. It didn't. The only way I can see this collapse now would be macro stuff again. And so far that's been holding up somewhat nicely. And Trump seems to chicken out when it gets particularly bad. So I think if anything, if it gets really bad macro-wise, you'll see Trump chicken out, which gives you the relief bounce to get out on if you're bullish and wrong. Bunch of people in the chat writing taco. I think that means Trump always chickening out. I'm not entirely sure, but it's a nice acronym. So yeah, that's where we are. It's not as good as it could be. Like I said, the daily's leaning a little bit bearish, but is better than it realistically should be. And look at this. Wait, I'll hide this. Like, this does not belong on a weekly. And this, yeah, weekly time frame. I mean, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green candles. Is this 8? Am I dumb? No, it's 7. Jesus Christ. I am too tired for this. Anyway, we had 7 green weekly candles and we barely had a red weekly candle, and people are losing their mind, right? Like, just face value. Like, you have a bunch of people being super bearish now, which, I mean, that doesn't have to mean much, but you can tell that the sentiment is not as hilariously bullish as it usually has been when we're trading above. Like, we're still closing above prior highs, right? There's still all higher closes, all of these for last week's. And we barely had a red candle and people are freaking out. What makes this false breakout at all-time high less bearish than 2021 one? It's not on the weekly yet. We start losing the weekly, and I think you can make a strong case. So this one, we talked about this before it actually happened here. But when you compare this to where we are right now, it'd be basically being bearish at support, which, fair enough, right? Back then it worked. But for me, it was much easier to flip bearish back in 2021 with a close below rather than just going bearish into the support. And also we had the altcoin situation back then, which was basically max froth in the market. I'm not seeing that necessarily right now. The only thing that could be where you could make an argument, I think, is that basically the market keeps bleeding out because a bunch of bad actors just keep taking money from everyone, which I think is a decent argument. And then you would just argue like, hey, this market is just gonna continuously bleed out until it fully capitulates, which would basically look like this and then go down. But that's what altcoins have been doing, and Bitcoin has been largely unaffected. So, can you speak on ETH, please? Yeah. So that's Bitcoin. Like I said, not so bad. The weekly is good. The monthly is good. The daily is leaning a little bit bearish, but still decent. 100K key area. 106K would start like a daily close above 106K would start looking quite good in the short term. On the ETH front, it's still looking good. ETH looks much better than Bitcoin on, like, this is sexy. This is what we want to see. We had that like on ETH BTC, and obviously you have to zoom in really, really far to see this. But we finally, and you can see how we haven't done any of this. We finally reclaimed the support and it held. We talked about this when we were retesting down here, and I was like, still looks good as long as it holds. So far we've bounced from that support by like 8, 9, 10%, which is nice. At the end of the day, ETH is like a 3x away from prior range highs. It's actually not so far for an altcoin. Like the ETH BTC chart, if you are zoomed in enough, it's actually quite decent. It's constructive movement here in the near term. Obviously, if you zoom out far enough, it's still fucking awful, right? And this could just be one green candle again, like we've had multiple times before. It continues going down. But for me, this kind of looks like the apex of a parabola, right? Like, this has been a parabolic descent, and we finally had momentum to break out of it. Now what the ETH bulls do with it, I'm not entirely sure, but I actually really don't mind the chart, and I actually really like ETH/USD and how that played out. So I'm still holding, still bullish on this. I like it. Just straight up, I like the chart. I held it when I didn't like the chart. Obviously holding now is a little bit easier with the chart being like this. We did close that resistance, depending on how you draw it on ETH/USD. I could just do this. Here we go. Could argue that that is resistance, but for me, the prior range low is more important. That's 2.2. We held that. As long as we keep holding that on a monthly basis, this is a good chart to me. It's basically a range reclaim on the monthly, right? So ETH/USD on the high time frames for the first time in a long time looks quite good. We are stepping up basically. Prior all-time high here, acted as support. Range high acted as support. High here made lower high. So if we get anywhere close towards like 3 or 4K, I think we're gonna just make a new all-time high. I like the chart on the far zoomed out level. On the weekly time frame, it is at resistance right now, and this is something that we talked about in the last couple of weeks. Kind of makes sense to chop in the face of this because it's the last real resistance before all-time high, realistically. So if 2.7, 2.8K breaks, I think it's just gonna be a straight move up. The reason why I think that that's gonna happen is basically because the only serious resistance is 4K, and that's been tested a million times. I don't think that would hold, and that would also be kind of like a reclaim of the diagonal. Just generally good stuff, and the fact that we're holding here for so long is quite a good sign to me. Like you make an impulse to the upside, you go sideways like this without even pulling back a little. That to me is strength. So there's some strength there, but this is obviously resistance, right? So right now, that's what we're fighting. If Bitcoin holds up, I think this is probably gonna keep going up. And if BTC has been kind of doing the work that it has needed to do. So quite decent. Funnily enough, one of the stronger altcoins. If you compare ETH to anything else, Solana being one, but I can do a lot of others, you have seen outperformance in the last month to 2 months. It's finally starting to creep back up against Solana. Then we can do it the other way around, it's a little bit nicer. So you can see how the momentum on that seems to be running out a little bit, still obviously quite strong. But if you compared like ETH to anything recently, XRP, one of my favorites, you have seen like 6-7 weeks of outperformance, which I mean that could continue for a while on like all of the major pairs, right? I like it against Solana. I like it a little bit less against XRP, but still like there's a little bit of room, right, for this to like even relative catch up like by a 2x. Like there's room, doesn't mean it has to, but that's a nice little gap to be able to fill. So yeah, I don't hate ETH, even though it is at resistance on the USD pair, especially given it's coming from support on the BTC pair. I've seen a lot of people talk about massive OI. I haven't been keeping an eye on it at all. I'll just close my eyes and pray that it goes well. So yeah, not bad at all. I personally like it. Full disclaimer, the moment we reclaim this, like I'm barely underwater on ETH right now. But you'd be like, oh, like you bought into resistance. Nope. I bought here on the left side, averaged down a little when it went down, but I usually don't tend to average down too much. So didn't buy at the lows. Still have like an average around 2.7. So, which is basically where we are at right now. So yeah, that's ETH. On the XRP side, nothing's really changed. We retested the range high and then pulled back, retested the range low. boring stuff. Still looks quite strong. The problem, if there is a problem, would be the BTC pair that has kind of broken support, but it's still kind of like it makes sense on the monthly time frame, which is the one that my trade idea is based on. I bought based on the support test down here, which worked out quite well, and now it's pulling back a little, which is to be expected after a move like that. It's retraced against BTC, retraced like 50% of the move, which is not that much. We've seen larger retraces before, but obviously would like to see that show a little bit more strength. But altcoins generally have been quite shit. ETH has just recently started perking up again. But if you turn on any altcoin Bitcoin pair, Solana being one of them, there's just weakness all around on the altcoin pairs. There's not a problem that ETH or XRP have by themselves. It's all the altcoins have been struggling against Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just been relentlessly bid, and the altcoins have been relentlessly selling off. So yeah, I still like it on the USD pair. Like, this is a good chart on the monthly, on the weekly, on the daily. Still decent all around. Solana, I talked about at 130 on the stream, and I said like there's one resistance, and look at that. That's quite pretty. It almost hit it. Front ran by a tiny bit. Now pulling back a little. On the USD pair, still quite decent. You would expect this, like you have like a range reclaim into like the last test, like because it's the same story as on ETH, right? Like I don't think 250 is serious resistance. So if you're gonna get a complacency shoulder, it always had to be here, which then means like whenever you're in that situation where there's one last resistance before it giga moons, while the market isn't hot enough, it almost always pulls back. Right, and something that you can watch out for. Like you have a resistance like 250 here, that is kind of like a joke because you've tested here, you've tested twice here. Like you're not gonna break this resistance and then just get rejected here. Very, very unlikely, at least. When you are in that situation, usually the resistance does what it's supposed to, which is resist, and then you have a little bit of a downturn. That's kind of what we're going through right now, but generally also still not a bad chart. Would be bad below 127, but until that happens, quite good. Sol BTC kind of looks like ass, and I think there's a good chance that you're gonna see, like, compare these, that you're gonna see a little bit of a rotation into ETH again. Sol BTC just doesn't look that nice. On the monthly, there is argument to be made that it is at support, and this is where you would want to bid, and I'm not hating on that idea, but I just like on any other time frame, Sol looks quite shit against Bitcoin. Like I said, this is not something out of the ordinary. XRP BTC is one of the rare ones that looks really good. ETH BTC, I mean, that looks like ass on the monthly. You look at anything against Bitcoin, they look kind of awful. Like look at AVAX, look at Link, look at Atom, Uni. Like no matter which chart I throw up, there's just nothing good happening against Bitcoin. XRP being, like I said, one of the rare few ones that actually looks decent on the monthly time frame. So yeah, there's a lot of altcoin weakness. Higher time frame wise, I've seen a lot of people kind of going back and forth on are we gonna get an alt season or not. I think it's just too early to tell. You find a good altcoin that has a strong chart that you think holds promise on the USD pair, and that is not completely awful on the Bitcoin pair. And I mean, you can just play some altcoins if you want. Otherwise, just Bitcoin all the way. And then someone asked for Fartcoin. Yeah, that's not that bad. People are losing their mind over nothing. Let me see if there's a... Did they all list it at the same time? Must be one with... Oh, that's Trump top Fartcoin confirmed, at least back then. It bounced quite nicely though. I mean, what the bulls are afraid of, I'm guessing, is that this is gonna round out here. Possible, honestly, possible. If the market is cooked, I mean, that would be a sweet little top, and then it'd be over. But generally, honestly, like it's a little bit funny to be too bearish this. And I mean, it's a meme coin, it's going to zero, right? But just generally from the structure, you had a top, you made a low, and then you ran it all the way back, and people are like, oh, this is a complacency shoulder. But I think it's a little bit too aggressive a bounce for a complacency shoulder. I think you have quite good support in here. Problem with these is always like, I'm like, hey dude, this looks decent until it breaks like 0.7, but then like if you bought 1.6, you're down like 50%, and then it starts looking shit. But just generally, like that's the nearest support, and honestly, as long as that holds, this is decent structure. But like I said, with the disclaimer, this is a meme coin, and meme coins tend to go to zero. Hype chart. It's kind of funny. Like I've seen a lot of people freaking out about coins, and they look like this, like that. It's a good chart. Yeah, I cannot hate on something like this, chart wise. Like that'd be bad below 28, and that's really far away. Yeah, just looks decent. Do you think the major memes, Pepe, Doge, etc., have topped? I really don't know. I really don't know. Doge, like I said, I don't necessarily like too much. Pepe, for example, let me see how the chart looks. I haven't looked at that in a long time. I mean, that's not that bad. It's not great, to be honest, but that's what the bears are looking at, obviously. Shoulder, head, shoulder, and bears are like, this is fucked. And I think that was kind of like a nice short entry. And bulls are looking at this support area, and I think as long as that holds quite decent still. Like if you're long-term Pepe bull, for example, I think below here, below that cluster here, basically invalidating this entire week of upside, that would kind of like invalidate the entire bullish thesis. If you're like a semi-bull, you just want to trade this thing, it's kind of like okay-ish above here, but I generally think like if you're on the sidelines, like above here and is good, and that's probably like a good trade to the upside where it makes like a new all-time high or gets close to it at least, and below here is probably good trade on the short side of things. So right now it's more on the neutral side. I think you can make quite a convincing bear case based on the chart on this. But can you please do Doge? There's nothing to say on Doge. Like, it's just chop. Mediocre at best looking chart. Like you have that. That's resistance. You had a false breakout. Like the only argument that you can make here realistically would be bearish on the high time frame. And then lower time frames also looks kind of awful. On daily time frame also doesn't look that great. I don't like that one necessarily. Like I just like, for me, I'm staying away from Doge, just because I think Elon has too much sway in Doge, and I think Elon's just topped. Don't think he's gonna get more influence. Could be wrong though, but yeah, I just don't think that's necessarily too interesting. Don't know how much damage the unwinding of Sailor gonna cause. I mean, the moment that starts unraveling, like Bitcoin's gonna go down like 50% ish, I think, at least. But I don't think we're there yet. But that's kind of like a Ponzi worth keeping an eye on. I think that's gonna, like, the moment the next bear market hits, and if it could be now, could be at 150k, could be at 200k, but basically the next time you get a bear market, it's gonna go down, like, I think like 30 to 50% lower than it would be otherwise, because you're gonna see a bunch of unwinding of big positions, like companies that bought Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff. I think is gonna get washed out the next bear market. Did you eat your ETH? No, I haven't. I still like it. I like the chart. I get why people are bearish short term, but like the charts still look decent, so I'm gonna give it the room that it deserves. But yeah, like I said, the wholesaler story, I think, is not quite ready to unwind yet. But any excuse for the market to go down significantly, I think, at least in the next couple, like if Saylor keeps doing what he's been doing, which is just leveraging up more and more and more, and just kind of like buying more and more and more Bitcoin, even though he has more than plenty already, I think is going to end up in that entire trade unwinding. And then we have like a proper bear market for like 3, 4, 5, 6 years before it goes up again. I think that's kind of like, that's where my head is at. I just don't think we're ready there, like quite there yet. But there's a reason why I keep taking money out of the market and not putting money into the market. I think generally the upside, like I have enough upside capture by having a little bit of a bunch of stuff. And I think the risk is quite large, but also I don't want to be entirely sidelined. So I'm trading. That's why I'm trading XRP. That's why I'm trading ETH. That's why I'm like interested in Bitcoin at these prices, even though like we are quite high. I think the Ponzi can run a little bit higher, but it's never guaranteed. So that's why I'm this time around. Usually in the last prior cycles, I would just pull out everything when I thought the market has topped, which conveniently I've been timing quite right. Like I pulled out everything here. I actually sold a bunch here too, but rebought some on the lows. I got tricked. I thought this was bullish on the breakout, and then when we went back below 60, sold quite nicely. In 2017, I timed it really nicely, and sold pretty much everything in the 10 to 20k range before everything went to shit. So I got lucky twice in a macro sense, besides like a bunch of trades in between, but like the macro trades, that went quite well. But I'm not gonna tempt fate and do that like every time. So this time around, I've decided to pull out a bunch as long as it, like, while it's going up. That's obviously gonna decrease what I'm gonna make, as long as I would have gotten it right, but also I don't have to lose sleep over it, which I did in the past. I was sitting there being nervous all day. Now I can go on a vacation for a week and not give a fuck, which is for me worth it. I'm not young enough anymore to stay up and look at the chart 24/7 just to make sure that I get the top when it comes in. What percentage of you feels like we've topped already? It depends on whether you're talking about Bitcoin and altcoins. Bitcoin, I'd say like 10%. I think it's quite unlikely that has topped already, but I could be wrong, but just that quite looks good. With the altcoins, I think the chances are higher, much higher, but yeah. Don, what are the chances that Saylor becomes a trillionaire on Bitcoin bought with borrowed money? I mean, he's gonna be, like, the thing is, like, he's gonna be giga rich until it implodes, and then he's gonna be poor in no time. So there's a chance he, on paper, gets hilariously wealthy, but the moment he would sell, everything would crash, and so it's paper wealth. And even if it goes and grows to insane amounts, it's gonna come back down again. In my opinion, anyway. The more he levers. If he doesn't, if he just like chills, I think he's in a really good position. But I know people like him. I've seen it plenty of times. He's gone through these kind of things before. It's not like he has learned anything. It's the .com kind of guy. It has some history, right? From 300 to 0.4 to 500. That's the stock. So I would not be surprised to see the same thing happening again. But yeah, I think that's about it. There's not really that much more interesting stuff. Like memes have kind of been taking a pullback in the last couple of weeks. They've had a really strong bounce. Now they're struggling a little bit. I think that has to do with Bitcoin struggling. People are very, very antsy in the altcoins, which I think is a good sign. It just, the question is there enough money left in the market to pump these things? And are there enough people interested in crypto to pump these things? And that question is quite hard to answer. We'll see in the near future. But for now, like I said, Bitcoin's not too bad sitting at support. But it could easily break it too, and then we're back in range town / would actually be quite a bearish chart on the weekly at least. The monthly would still be bullish though. Cannot take that away from us, at least for another month. What are your thoughts on circumcision? I mean, shit's fucking crazy. I don't know why it is so popular in America. Fucking wild to me. I just fucking wild. But you guys do whatever you want to do. Like everyone, it's like if you want to cut pieces of your penis off, be my guest. It's just not me, thanks. It's not a thing in Europe for the Americans that are confused. Like this is an American thing. But yeah. Anyway, what a weird fucking note to end on, but we'll do it. I appreciate you guys coming by. We'll see how it goes. I think the next week is going to be quite pivotal. Like the next week or two, can we hold support or not? If we can, new all-time highs. If we cannot, quite significant pullback. So yeah, there's a lot of setups kind of around that work in both ways, and in the near future, one of those sides is going to look like they're geniuses and the other ones are morons. And it will be easy to say in hindsight, but right now, obviously quite difficult. How do you go from crypto to this? I mean, that is just how it goes on the stream. But yeah, thanks guys for coming by. Really appreciate your support. Big shout out to Wu also. Their links are in the description. And yeah, we'll see each other on Friday. Much love. Talk soon. Bye bye.